Good evening to you. Thank you so much for allowing us to join you this evening and speak into your life. I'm so excited this evening to have Chanda and Chastity here. Look at all those things. That is so much fun. And so, without further ado, you notice that we had some technical difficulties earlier. And what we realized about that, and I love what Chastity said as we were rebooting, that is just part of leadership. It is part of
That's
an
right.
ever evolving culture that we have. So we want to make sure that we are just pressing in, moving forward. And the best of leaders are the adaptable leaders. So, Chanda, without further ado, welcome, welcome, dear friend.
Thank
Uh,
you.
will be Saturday, and she is the author of Excel. And I want to talk about that, but more importantly, Saturday, we are going to be speaking about procrastination and how
Right.
it trips us up. So you'll want to join in Saturdays with Sherry at 9 a.m. But Chanda, for this evening, thank you for
Yes.
introducing our beloved guest who we both have connections to in really great ways. So tell us about Chastity.
Absolutely. It is with great honor to introduce Miss Chastity Marie. She is on a mission to reach the multitudes and impact the individual. Chastity really believes that every human being has a story to tell that no one else can tell, that then impacts a life that no one else can. So she's here to motivate you and encourage you to speak your truths to help others and everyone else around you. She's also here to share with us how not just to overcome fears, but and not just how to deal with them, but to really be that more than a conqueror of those fears. How to not just be driven out in the world today, but to be kingdom empowered. And finally, how not to just be consistent in things, but to be really intentional in who we are and what we're doing. But most importantly, she's here to help you be your very best version of you. She realized that there was so much more to life success than just that successful job that we all think that we want. And so she began this entrepreneurial journey that radically changed her life and the lives of so many other people around her. So now she is an entrepreneur running a multi-million-dollar organization. It is so impressive. She molds her purpose into passion to create that beautiful future. And finally, she is a spiritual influencer, a social influencer, and she's just out there helping everyone go from overwhelmed, from lost, to being free and motivating by overcoming those limiting beliefs that we all fight. So, without further ado, give it up for Miss Chastity Marie.
Well, yes, I want to stand up. Chanda, thanks so much for joining us this
Absolutely.
evening. We just appreciate it so very much. See you Saturday at 9, friend. Chastity! Oh my
Yes,
goodness.
I'm going to put that on my planner. I need all the things that y'all will be covering on Saturday. So I'm excited to listen in on Saturday. I'm excited to be with you today.
Oh, I am so glad you're here. And I have, just admired you for so many years, long before you really began the Lavelle journey. And what's so interesting is for a long while now, you have been the gal that has been tenacious. You have been willing to always say yes and to persevere. And so, because I admire that so much about you, I want to make sure that our listening audience knows a little bit about who you are so that when you're saying these things, they'll understand the frame of reference, because that's what building community is all about. So tell us about Chastity Marie.
Well, first of all, I'm just honored, Sherry, to be on here with you. You have been a spiritual mentor and influence. I've watched you from a distance and from up close, and that's something I'm going to talk about tonight. I have had some great accomplishments in life, but I will tell you the highest honor and titles are Child of the King, Mom, Buela, which is grandma in Spanish, wife, entrepreneur, successful business owner. And I didn't start out like that. You may look and say, wow, she's super successful. But had a really long journey of ups and downs. I read the life manual inside out and upside down, struggled as a teenager, really found myself in places where I just thank God every single day that I just didn't get caught, and that I had that rooting and grounding, that my roots ran deep in faith, and that God protected me. And now he's placed me. I tell people all the time, it took me 40-ish, because I'm going to be 40-ish forever, 40-ish years to be an overnight success. But I love, my passion and purpose is inspiring. I love all people, but women, because I am one, are my heartbeat. Troubled teens, I love, and I wish I could have had something like that in my life as a teenager. And so that's my heartbeat, is to reach the multitude, but impact that individual.
I so agree with that. And part of what is amazing about your testimony, and when I look at your blog, is that you are a thought leader. And I do want us to address what that means and what it looks like. And for those of you who may be wondering, okay, so why this? Why tonight? Because more than a year ago, Chastity granted me an interview for Viction, and it's actually, I've marked it because I just wanted to comment about something that has directed me for more than a year. I asked you a question, and you turned around and asked me 5 questions faster than I could type. And I'm not going to go over all 5 of them except for the 5th one, because I'll never forget what it was like in Starbucks in Greenville, Texas, on that rather chilly night. As a matter of fact, you leaned forward like this, and you looked at me, you smiled, but oh, you were serious. And you asked me, you said, "Are you willing to love people for a living?" And I thought, well, I love people. But I'm telling you, I hear that question at the strangest times more than a year later. Am I willing to love people for a living? Because I believe that is what undergirds so much of what we do. And so we say that, and yet COVID-19 has totally disrupted everything, not only in 19, but 2020, 2021. And so I think the first thing our listeners would like to know is, how are you as a leading lady navigating through this process? And what words of wisdom do you have to help us continue to navigate in 2021?
Well, I'll tell you, Sherry, God has a funny sense of humor. You can't just talk the talk, you have to walk the walk. And so when you interviewed me, I didn't know what the world would be presenting us with, and really showing us how to love the unlovable. And I have to admit that through the last several months, I've been pretty unlovable myself. And God continues to remind me that I have to forgive and love with that same unconditional love. So it's funny hearing, I leaned in and said it with so much confidence, but I'm glad that wasn't a little bit farther in the journey, because I might have had to self-evaluate at that point. But, I went into 2020. I take some time to intentionally focus on my goals, my vision, what I have in my heart. I take intentional time and present that to God and say, God, if there's anything that I have put in this itinerary, goals and visions that you don't want me to have, not just remove it, but remove it from my reach, because I have a tendency to stretch my hands out and reach for things that are not supposed to be mine. And so for 2020, it's going to be the year of clarity and crystal vision and all the things going straight and just gung-ho, and my word was vision, and I had it everywhere, and we were hit with the unexpected. And God, now being on the other side of that in 2021, I am so thankful, because a lot of people said, well, clarity and vision, that went out the door, but God is so faithful because I was able to get very clear on what does matter. What do the people that I lead need? What am I doing that is beneficial? What am I doing that's just filling time and it's not really effective work? So even though it set us back as a world and a society and an economy, I'm so thankful that I led from a position of being proactive instead of reactive.
Yes.
We were already, as an organization, doing Zooms, taking advantage of technology. I know you're learning so much, and that's one thing I'm going to talk about here, is ask questions. So many times when we are in positions of leadership or we are expected to have everything figured out, we don't want to ask because we're supposed to have all the answers. And so as a business owner, I was already in a position of being proactive because I know that anything can happen at any time, before a pandemic, before a political campaign, before anything. So I've always led, and I've always taught my leaders to lead proactively, not reactively. And so when the world became paralyzed, we just took a pivot and a whole lot of prayer. And we just went straight into everything. And we've been using technology like crazy, learning a whole lot.
Okay.
But
And yes, and that's so good. You said two things that automatically I want to applaud you for. Even before we went live, we were talking about lighting. I mean, I just straight up asked, and I love the fact that Chastity's turned hers around. We were comparing lighting, and I love the fact that we can do that because you see, we're all in this together. And then the other pivotal thing that you said, and I think Carrie Newhoff must have really have branded this word forever in our minds in 2020, is pivot. We had to do more than one about face. We had to do more than one pivot in order to make it. And I'm so thankful for Zoom and StreamYard and all the other ways that we can relate. But Chastity, I'm finding out, is changing daily, if not hourly. You know, there's Clubhouse, there's all these different social media platforms to decide if you're going to join and be in a room and be a part of. And so to learn to navigate all of that is pretty crazy. And I think you're doing an outstanding job. So I think that is wonderful. You know, in the interview, as well as tonight, when it became apparent that you would say yes, you know, I was like, okay, let's do 6 keys that distinguish a leader, because you were leading when no one was watching. You are putting in the time and the effort and the work and the grunge. Sometimes people think you became an overnight success, and yet they weren't really watching everything that came up. So for those who want to lead well, for those who are already leading well and want to sharpen their skill set, talk to us about what those 6 keys are of a really good, distinguished leader.
Well, that's always evolving, Sherry. And I'll tell you a bonus step. The first step is to get the book Viction. I love that book. I open it up, I read it, I highlight it, I use excerpts. I had the opportunity to speak at a college just a few weeks ago, and I shared that book with the young ones there. And so that's your bonus, as grab the book. Hey, I don't make a penny off of it, but I will tell you, investing in yourself is the best. So I was thinking of, and I can't remember exactly my contribution into that chapter, but I will tell you, to be distinguished and set apart as a leader, you must be willing to serve. And I tell people, if serving is beneath you, then leading is beyond you. Because I don't care if you are in a retail space or you're CEO of a company, if you're an accountant, there's always going to be opportunities and reasons to serve. And people see that servant in you. Now, does everybody appreciate it? Sometimes it's taken advantage of. Yes, but still, I believe that when you serve others, you're in turn served back.
Yes. And Chastity, I would like to let you know that not only did that book, Fiction, go to the Bible College where you spoke, in multiple Bible colleges, it's in multiple staff development libraries and school districts across the nation and internationally. It is finding its way into businesses, into Fortune 500 companies. And I love the fact that you would drive and meet me halfway to share. And when I look at your interview, even now, and there's some things that if you don't touch on, I'm going to go back and touch on because I thought they were so good. But I realized someone said, well, how did you choose her? And I said, because she is a leader among leaders. And someone was looking at it the other day and they said, well, she's on the same page as your quote from The Speed of Trust with Stephen Covey. I said, exactly. I recognize the leadership traits there. So I appreciate you saying servanthood because you're serving people that we've never met in India, the Philippines, and in multiple states across our great country. So thank you.
Well, and I know as leader, we have full plates, and I always call them, and guys, and maybe you've got a man purse or whatever, but I always call it a purse read. And I love the fact that it's just the right size. You could throw it in your beach bag, throw it in your purse, and you could grab it, carpool line, and read it and reread it. So I love all types of literature, but I love that it's small enough in size that I can take it with me anywhere I go. So the next thing that I would say is you must be a listener. As a leader, we think that it is our responsibility to just pour and give information and tell everybody what they need to hear, but it's super important that you listen because sometimes you're doing your best efforts and you're growing and you're training and you're maybe you are meeting your business needs is in an area, but that's not what your team needs. They need morale or they need connection. People need community now. I am a hugger. God did not create me to social distance. He created me to hug and love. And so maybe it's just they don't need your fancy quotes or they don't need your certification information. They just need to know that you care. So listen to the people that you're leading and find out what exactly they need from you. And sometimes for me, I have to step back because I get really excited and I just want to share my heart. And I feel like God's leading me to share this, but sometimes I have to just step back and say, Lord, less of me, more of you. Zip your mouth. The positive thing that I can say about the mask is, I respect the rules because I live in the United States and I'm going to respect, but it has kept my mouth quiet. And there has been some times when, I've kind of not been acting all spiritual and I may have stuck my tongue out at someone underneath the mask, but that's okay. But it's a visual of just stop talking and listen to what that person needs. So as a leader, you must be willing to serve, and you've got to listen. You've got to listen to the needs of the people around you.
Yes, I love how one of our listeners even put what you said in the comment. Becky said, "If serving is beneath you, then leading is beyond you." That is resonating with our listeners, and so much appreciate that, Becky. That is really great. Okay, so to serve, to listen. What are some of these other really great keys that we want to hone in on as really effective leaders right now?
Okay, one thing that we are in right now is a world of, like you said, there's new platforms coming out, new technology every single day. So we are overwhelmed with consumption. And so we are consuming from all different areas. And Sherry, I know you know me and I know you'll allow me to be transparent, but during 2020, one of the things that I was really able to get clarity on was, is this a belief that I have because this is something I truly believe, or is this something that somebody maybe that I look up to believes? I had to go back to my center and my truth. There were even some things, and that's one thing that I have honored you for is knowing the word. I want to know the word like I know the quotes, but there's been times in my life where I'm like, oh, was that a good quote, or is that in scripture? And so I did have to deep dive. And the thing is, consumption needs to be followed up by production. And that means when you learn something, when you walk through something, like you said, I believe there is room in this world for all of us to be great. Being great does not mean I'm great, I'm awesome, look at me. It means we're great together. So if I have a tool, a tip, a technique, even in my parenting, I'm going to offer that if someone is willing to take my advice so that they can, we tell our kids, if you could just avoid the problems that I went through. Well, they don't listen all the time. And we find that in leadership as well. So if you learn something, produce it back out. Put your spin on it, and don't just be obsessed with consuming. There's only so much space in this brain, but then you go out and you produce it. This is a world of technology, and you are going to stand out if you're giving value, if you are giving positive edification, uplifting. I promise you, you're going to stand out in this world of a lot of constant negativity. So don't get too consumed with just the consumption. Make sure as a leader, you're consuming and producing is very much in balance.
Okay, I think that's great. Consume, but more importantly, produce. And you talked about being authentic and being real and transparent. And right now, the world needs that. They don't need something that's super polished or what everyone else is saying. They just need to know something that is real and true that they can add in their life. And so one of the things you said that I'm actually doing right now myself is I'm going back and I'm making sure I know exactly why I'm doing everything I'm doing, and even going through a study called Unique. And in it causes you to go back and look at the high points and the low points of your life, and then to realize, what are those key words in your life, those key events that God is honing in, that He has called you to do that one specific thing and to do it well. We have lots of talents, but it's still great to know what that focus is. And I know that you have found your niche, and I love that. I'm really happy for you. And you're right, there's more than 7 billion people on the planet. God made everyone to be able to experience greatness. He says, with God, all things are possible. So there is enough greatness to go around. And I love the fact that you said, we can celebrate one another. And that is so good. So any other tidbits that we need to know about being a distinguished leader?
One thing is, you said why are you doing the things you're doing? And one of the things that I wrote down for tonight for our listeners is create a non-negotiable routine, but also create a to-don't do list. There's a lot of things, and in a society and in a leadership position, we feel like we have to check the boxes. We have to get it done, and we have to be the high achievers because all eyes are on us. Well, check your heart and find out there's things that are not fun in business. And there's a secular book out there, and it's called Eat the Frog. And it just talks about get the hard things done first at the end of the day, whatever your hard looks like. I may enjoy going to the gym and someone doesn't. Someone else may enjoy reading through emails and I don't. Some people enjoy Instagram replies and I don't. So whatever your hard is, get that done in the beginning of the day and set those non-negotiables. Sherry, I have a Dollar General alarm clock that is on the other side of the room. And I've made the choice not to use that phone as my alarm clock, because what happens is I pick up my phone because my business is mobile business, and the first thing I see is a situation, something I have to address, somebody complaining. And if I don't start my day elevated with filling my tank and filling up, I am, I'm going to start down here, and then it's just downhill from there. But if I start in an elevated space, creating what I call my miracle morning, and mastering that non-negotiable routine in my morning, it's a game changer. And as a leader, you're going to be pulled in so many different directions, and you've got to take care of you. Maybe you haven't traveled in a long time. I'm just recently getting back to that travel, but if you have been on an airplane, one of the things that they say to you first, in case of an emergency, put on your mask first. And that's what we have to realize every single day. Everybody else thinks every day is an emergency, so every day you should put on your mask, and you need to define what that mask is. Is that your daily quiet time, your prayer time, your meditation time, your workout time, whatever it is for you, make that morning routine absolutely non-negotiable. And I know I'm talking a lot. I'm going to drop two more things. Continue to grow. And then that's just a no-brainer. But this one I don't want to have run out of time and skip over. You as a leader must grant and deny permission to the things and people that you allow to speak into your life. And for me, it is physically. It's not that I would say, I don't want to hear what you're saying. I'm from the South, so we are taught to be respectful. But if there is someone and they are not aligned with my core vision and value, I will respect that they have an opinion. I will respect that they have different values in me, because as a leader, you are going to lead all walks of life, and you have to be prepared to realize that there are going to be so many people that you're going to have the honor to lead. But you have to decide who you allow to speak into your life. And so one thing, Sherry, that I have started doing really in the last 2 years, I don't, in my efforts to not talk so much, I would ask somebody. So if I were sitting and talking with you, I would say, Sherry, are you open for some suggestions? And usually they won't say no, but I say that because I want to remind them, as I want to remind myself, that we are just listening to all of the noises and things that are coming in on our social. We're subconsciously letting it come in. And that has to be a critical thing that we protect. And you have permission to grant and deny who speaks into your life.
Okay, that is really hitting our listeners about grant and deny who speaks into our life. Let's see, someone asked about the frog book, and I believe that one of our listeners answered. So that is fantastic that you all are just navigating on the side, taking the comments on up there, and I think that is really great to grant and deny. And yes, Chastity, I believe that we do have a choice who we listen to, and there are lots of different opinions. And one of the ways that I look at it is everyone is allowed to have their opinion, and they can choose to speak into my life if that's what they feel is necessary. But I'm only going to listen to those opinions of the people that I would seek wisdom from.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because, you have to earn that place to really speak into someone's life. And I love what you said earlier. You asked the question, may I share a few things with you? That way you find out where they're at. Are they willing to receive instruction? More importantly, can they receive instruction from you or from me when that question is asked? And I think in a world that is so forceful right now, that is such a genteel way to lead and to want to mentor and to guide. So I absolutely love that. Now, these are all really good keys. And I know one of the things that I want to know, and I think other people want to know, is what should we be doing now to become a great leader? What were you doing back in the day before people knew what your platform was and you had experienced what many think was a sudden success, but you had been on it. You'd been on it in life and in a business career, and then now with everything with Thrive. What do we want to know to become a great leader?
You may be watching and you're just getting started. And I will say to you, there's always somebody watching you. Maybe you have big goals and dreams and aspirations and you want to lead. And I would say, first and foremost, who are you leading in your home? What are the people within your home seeing? We think, well, I don't have anybody. I'm not in a position of leadership yet. Well, you've got to start with what you have before you can move. You have to, because too much is given, much is required. And I am in about a 90% female industry, and leading women can be a challenge of the century. I mean, because we are just, God created us so very different and unique, but understanding that we see a lot of times leadership as some title and rank. And again, I try to look around if I'm at an event or somewhere and find that person that is making sure everything is flowing and everything is happening well. And but if I'm going to speak, they're making sure I have a mint and water bottle. I mean, those are leaders. I watch people that when we're at an event, they're helping clean up the table. They're serving and doing things. So whether you are leading one person or two people, or you're just leading the people in your home, lead as if you're leading 1,000. And again, remember that someone's always watching you. You never know. You could be in the grocery store in your local community and somebody watches you on social media. Somebody watches you maybe, wherever your life you're involved in, and they see you lose your Christianity with the cashier because something happened. You're leading and people are watching you. So just remember that, lead the way that you would want to be led. And I would say, no matter where you are, get a mentor. I have invested now. I've been an entrepreneur for 7 years. So it took me a very long time. I invest thousands of dollars in mentorship and masterminds, but I started with everything free. I always say you get a degree from YouTube University. You can find anything, you can master anything on there, but get mentors, whether those are virtuals, whether those are people into your life that will speak into your life. Because what happens is when you have a mentor, someone that cares for you, that is going to clap for you when you rise, that's going to reach down and lift you up when you've fallen, they're going to help remove the blind spots. And as you're growing and as you're leading and as you're distracted and, people are pulling in so many directions, having someone that says to you, hey, are you open for suggestions? And yes, I see you really moving in this direction, and I really see your highest usage is here. So I was seeing you grow, and I was seeing you happy. I was seeing your joy when you were really targeting this area, but now you've shifted, and I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Sometimes we don't know that. So make sure that you have mentors, whether that's a YouTube mentor, mentors in your church, mentors in your business organization. And here's the thing, a mentor does not have to have a significant title. I was talking to a mentor of mine, and he said, one of the things that I do is I always look for gray hair when I'm looking for a mentor. And I'm like, well, I had gray hair when I was 20. And so I said, I was just wise beyond my years, but I do look for those mentors. I know we cover up all that gray hair. Well, apparently, it's that sign of wisdom. So look for someone that has walked through life. Look for someone that has that is where you want to be. A lot of people will ask their friends, how do I manage my finances? And they're both broke. Or they say, how do I create a disciplined routine? And they're like, shoving Oreos, and nothing against Oreos. I love me some Oreos. Or they're like, I want to get on a workout routine. And they're like, well, I've been sitting on the couch for 2 years. Ask someone that is where you want to be. And I want to encourage you as women to offer. if you have something that, again, that you can give, and then advice and something that has helped you along the way, be someone else's mentor. Be that impact and influence in their life. Maybe if you think someone is great, don't just think it, speak it, and tell them, you know what? I think you have the gift of encouragement. You know what? I think you have the gift of creativity, because maybe they didn't realize and they've taken their gift for granted, and you speak that greatness over them, and they create a business, or they create the next greatest thing, invention, and it's because you didn't just think it, you spoke it into their life.
Yes, I think that's so good. I made sure I threw it up on the screen real quick. If you are enjoying tonight's conversation, I really want you to be able to connect with Chastity. Her website is amazing. Her blogs are really good. www.chastitymarie.com. Now, I'm going to leave that up there for a moment while we segue into, so you've told us what the keys are for being a leader. We have discussed things that make a great leader. But sometimes it's just as important to know what disqualifies a leader. So can you talk to us about what are some of the things that, man, they just disqualify, and they do so quickly? What can we and what do we need to avoid?
Well, and I can speak from an angle of myself, and I haven't been qualified yet, but I've been called to lead, and I think a lot of people get in the me syndrome. And I have yet to find a book, and I've done a lot of reading, a lot of research, spent a lot of money in masterminds, and I want to remind you that no one is self-made. It took someone along the way. Maybe you had the greatest invention, but you didn't have the technical side, and someone had to help you with that invention. Maybe you created, a master plan, and but you didn't know how the execution part worked, or maybe you got in trouble in school for talking all the time, but you had that teacher that said, you know what, that voice is going to be used to speak across the world, and so instead of stifling your dreams, it was able to catapult you. So the me syndrome has to be removed, because in leadership, it is about who else can I help? Who can I make a difference? Who can I make an impact in? And, I always say, there's success. You define that success, and that success is not someone on Instagram or in social spaces. What does success look like for you? And for many years, Sherry, I would just say success, and a lot of people think money. That's not the truth for everybody. Success looks different for everyone, and it should look different for you, but it should be defined. And if you're thinking me all the time, you are eventually, you're going to run out of stuff to buy and have and achievements. When you shift that to, how can I help somebody else today? And, another thing is, if you stop learning, you will stop leading, because we're never going to learn it all. The second that we learn something about technology, and I know we keep going back to that, it changes. The second we think that we have the algorithm and we are reaching our people, it changes. The second you figure out your smartphone, you become dumb because the phone just upgraded to a new level. So just know that you should be in a constant state of learning. Now, don't get overwhelmed. Some people are, again, they want to consume. You have to know that you're always going to be growing. And if someone offers you advice, be willing to listen if you respect them and they're aligned, again, with your core vision and values. And the other thing, as a leader, if you're going to lead, you're not going to please everyone. And so, there's going to be people in your organization, there's going to be people in your influence that the leadership is a buffet, and there is going to be, whether that's a virtual leader, sometimes I need a certain type of YouTube that will get me moving and motivated and strong, and then sometimes I just need grace and peace and calm, and the same thing with the books that you read. Sometimes you know, you don't have to always be trying to figure it out and self-improve. Enjoy, read a book that just makes you smile. Read a book that just makes you, you know, a lot of people in business and leadership, we guilt ourselves. Oh my gosh, I laid on the couch and Netflix for a day. You know what? If that's what made you feel good, then walk in that grace instead of that guilt, and just say, but you know what? I'm going to do all the things I need to do. So, you know, one thing is just knowing that you're not self-made, and that it takes a whole lot of people to help you achieve where you need to be.
Yes.
And then the last little thing I'm going to say is just remember, in leadership, I like this analogy of shoe size. You know, if I'm a size 5 shoe and you're a size 9, you will never, even if you try to be Cinderella, you're never going to be able to squeeze into my shoe. Now, if I'm a 5 and you're a 9, I can step into your size 9, but I'm going to flop around for a while, and it's going to be pretty hard. And then there's going to be some that, you know, you just absolutely, there's no way, you don't fit in them. They're way too big. You can't even walk. And that's okay. Understand that you're not always going to be able to understand everything. And a lot of times leaders think they know it all. And that immediately kicks them out, because they don't. Because every single day as a leader, you're going to come in contact with people with different visions, different views, different opinions. And you have to be able to say, let me step back. Sherry, I have literally done this, and I know this sounds silly, but I've literally been on the phone with someone, had the phone in my hand, and I'm talking, and I want to respond out of anger or not very nice, and I'll literally physically turn and go, what could they possibly be thinking, feeling, or going through?
Yes.
And everything shifts, because then, even though I don't know exactly, if I change it and go, why do they feel this way? What possibly could be giving them this opinion or this thought? First of all, it gives me a little bit of grace, keeps me out of jail for saying, you know, Facebook jail for saying things I shouldn't. But it shifts that perspective, and you have to be able to do that if you want to be a leader. And just know, you're not going to be qualified ever, but you're called, and so it's time to step into your leadership position.
Yes, so important. Things that would disqualify us, unwillingness to change, always thinking about ourselves, and not being open-minded. These are things that Chastity has shared with us this evening that would unqualify us as a leader. I love the example of turning around. When I was flying on an airplane earlier this week, coming back from a radio program, I was watching 42 on the plane, and 42 is a movie about the first black baseball player in the United States. And one scene that really stuck out to me, in fact, I've gone back and watched parts of this movie even a couple of times since I've been home, because it is so good. He defied the odds. Boy, he could have run his mouth more than once. And yet the gentleman that was following him was his boss that was topping up his pants for him as he was walking toward a bunch of white reporters. He said, just like you see that baseball come in slow over the plate, you want to see the questions come in slow.
Right.
We need to see questions and comments come in slow, process it, and think about it before we respond. That was such a really good reminder to me, and really a good movie worth watching, because boy, the people with true grit that will stand and do the right thing even when it's hard, those people are worth celebrating. Okay, so Chastity, I've been wanting to ask you this all evening long. What would you tell yourself 25 years ago? Or as a what would you be saying to yourself? What advice would you give yourself, knowing what you know now?
Man, when you sent me the list, and I apologize, I'm putting my phone on the charger, but when you sent me that, I thought, man, She wants this to go a very long time because I wouldn't tell my younger self a whole lot. I would remind myself that God gave me one mouth and two ears and two eyes. And I would just ask more questions and slow down. And just to remind myself that I'm worthy. I've walked a very uphill journey, and you can find that on my blog. I share a lot of I'm very, very transparent with my truth. I embrace all of the hills and valleys that I've walked through. Because I've watched God be present in all of that. But I would just tell myself, slow down, enjoy life. Don't get so stressed out about things. Don't get involved in things that at the end of the day are not going to matter. But I would say at that age of 25, by that time, we have started to allow self-doubt to creep in. Maybe we weren't as educated as we would have liked to been. Maybe for me, I was a teen mom. Life looked very different at 25 than the friends around me. And, the comparison and competing, I did that. And so I limited my ability because I allowed things like from my past to rise up as I was growing up and becoming an adult. And so I would just say, just know that you are worthy. And where you start, if you're at that 25-year mark, just because you started with the odds stacked against you, just because you started in a generational cycle of poverty or limiting beliefs, you don't have to stay there. You can be all that God had a plan for you way before you had a plan for you. And it's greater than you could think or imagine. So just know that, those younger years of trying, we're not in high school anymore, but to focus on what is going, at 25, I wasn't thinking about legacy. I wasn't thinking about what my impact will be. I think a lot about that now. And, the last year has shown us that we're not promised tomorrow. Every morning you rise up as a gift. And, if tonight is my last night, what will people remember? They're not going to remember your title. They're not going to remember the square footage of your home. They're probably not going to talk about your bank account. They're going to talk about the impact and what you did for them in their life, the confidence, the belief, and what you spoke into their life. And just remember, you have something unique that I could never offer to someone. And so find that gift and that talent. And if you don't know what it is, again, like we said, find someone that you believe has your best interest and say, hey, what do you think I'm good at? What are some things that you love that I do? And it may be the greatest idea that creates the greatest of wealth. It may be, like I said, the greatest invention, but don't be afraid to ask others more questions. And I wish I had done a lot more question asking than I did talking. So
all of that is so good. I'll tell you, I'm kind of drawn back to the book again. And one of the things is that you shared was that you have some non-negotiables, and they're your daily dues. And I don't want to read all of them, but a few of them just still jump out at me. And one of the things you said was true leaders are rooted in humility and teachability. But you mentioned the cell phone. You mentioned that you love going to the gym and your heart rate. But you said have an attitude of gratitude. And I think we forget that our attitude, whether things are going well or could be improved, our attitude is really what sets the tone for everything. That was so great. And then you said stay in the seat of learning at all times. And then one that I think is worthy for leaders to embrace, position yourself to be with those who are doing more and learning more. So, there is a place at the table for all of us to learn, and that just thrills me greatly. Okay, so I would like for you to share with our listeners how they can connect with you, and you're welcome to type that in the comment section as well. But what are the different ways they can find you on Facebook and Instagram. We've shared about your blog, but please let us know all the ways we may follow you and learn from you, whether they ever get to meet you in person or not, because I noticed earlier we have some people from India. Welcome, welcome in the Philippines. You may not.
Well, I can keep it short, Sherry, because I have 11% on my battery, and I'm thinking, Lord, I'm literally praying over this phone. Do not let it go dead. But I have everything connected. You can find my Instagram. I try to keep my focus on very few platforms because I get overwhelmed. That another pro tip: don't try to know it all. Just practice on focus on what you've got. So if you will connect with me at chastitymarie.com, if you'll sign up for my emails, I send you a free productivity list and some free information. I am always going to be that person that's going to speak life into you. You'll see that at my chastitymarie.com, you'll find my Instagram, my business page, you'll find my YouTube channel, my LinkedIn, and I know that you will find value in my real and raw, very transparent. You'll see me sometimes very filtered and put together, and sometimes you'll see me show up as a hot mess, and that's okay, because I think that we live in a world that needs people to show up authentically and as themselves. So I'd love for you to connect with me tonight. And if you connect with me, let me know that you watched tonight live. I'll send you an additional free gift. So thank you, Sherry, for trusting me
here. And I'm going to put a thing or two up on the screen while you're typing in the comments section before your phone goes out. And so this Saturday, we will have Chanda joining us about overcoming the things that try and trip us up, the hazards of procrastination. So make sure that you do join us Saturday at 9 a.m. That would be great. Also know that next month, the second Thursday of every month, we have the discussion, the role of faith in your leadership with LaTasha Davis, Sabrina Williams coming to join us. Also, on Wednesdays, our focus at 12 noon, Food for Thought, is biblical leadership. Saturdays is the practicality of living out leadership. Would love for you to join me on YouTube, Women in Leadership with Sherry Chester. Also know that there are ways for us to stay connected. And more than anything else, I want you to remember about your goals. You review them, do and repeat the things that you've heard this evening. Those are so valuable. And above all, remember that people are to be nurtured and not used. And in saying that, once again, Chastity, thank you so much for being here. God bless you. Happy 3-day.
I love you, friend. And I have to just say, on this public audience, I have loved watching you the last, just year. It seems like we had the longest, shortest year ever. But Sherry, I have loved watching you step out, because I know that the whole world, like you're reaching India and the Philippines, and you started reaching a small town girl like me, and I know the world needs you. So thank you for being a mentor. Thank you for being a friend and for speaking life into us that need it. So thank you so much. I'm honored to be on here tonight, and thank you for sharing me with your listeners.
Yes, likewise. Okay, so go and follow Chastity Marie. Go to @SherryLynn_Chester, like and follow, because above all, what we want to do is speak life and hope and encouragement into you, because this is what we know. You have been created in a very unique way with a specific calling and purpose. And both of us just want to come alongside you and wish you the very best. So from our homes to you, we wish you a good evening and a good night.